Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of Important Work. I'm your host, Chris Angell, and I'm here with my guest. And can I call you my friend? My
Absolutely.
Guest?
Please do.
And my friend, Mary Allison Brown. Hello, Mary Allison Brown.
Hi. I'm super excited to talk to you today. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. That's so good. Is it Mary Allison? Mary Allison is like one name.
It is.
Do you get this all the time?
Yes. So my parents thought it would be a great idea to name me after both of my grandmothers, and one was Mary and one was Alice. So they smushed it together and made it Mary Allison.
Got it. Not even Mary. I know Mary Alice is Mary Alice, but Mary Allison.
They said they just liked Mary Allison better. So
there you go.
Here we are.
So good. You tell us where you first of all, where are you in the world? You're in Washington State, right?
I am, just like you. I'm in Tacoma though.
Nice.
Yep.
Those are my old stomping grounds, Tacoma.
Oh, really?
I went to PLU in Tacoma.
Okay. That's very close to us. We live right by Point Ruston.
Yes.
Which wasn't here then.
Katy Downs. Do you get down to Katy Downs on Ruston Way there for?
I've never been, but we could walk there. So maybe we should.
In the summer on the pier with the Puget Sound right there. It's amazing. A burger or a pizza and some beer. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about you and your important work in the world. Like what do you do? What is your important work in the world?
Well, so what I do in my important work in the world are not necessarily the same thing. Okay. They are sometimes. So I host a podcast, as you know, called the Life Unboxed podcast, which is one of my favorite things to do. I also speak a lot. I wrote a guided journal. So this all sort of ties into my important work.
Yeah.
And then a couple days a week, sort of my day job is that I'm a mental health therapist, which also there's a theme here, right? Yeah. Mindset and personal growth sort of is my important work. So I do lots of things to sort of fulfill my purpose and my mission, which is really to help. I always say women, although right now I have a few clients that are men, so that's actually shifting a bit, but I always say women. So to help women sort of get rid of the labels that both other people have placed on them, but also that they've placed on themselves. And so, with the podcast Life Unboxed, that's the whole concept, is getting out of those boxes that other people have put you in, that you've put yourself in, and like giving yourself permission to just be who you really are.
I love it. If you went into the shadows for a moment, you guys talk about shadow work in therapy. Do you talk about that at all? Do you study that?
A bit.
Or is that too on the fringes for?
It's actually the most recent episode of my podcast was all about shadow work with my guest.
Love it.
I think that I don't call it that in therapy, but we do that.
Right. Yes. Got it. Yeah. Okay. So whatever you call it in therapy, if you looked at people who feel stuck in a box, like what are some of the primary problems, symptoms, like where's the pain point in there?
The pain point, the problems and the symptoms. So the way that I both have experienced it in my own life and the way that I have sort of witnessed my clients experiencing it is you start to feel claustrophobic. You start to feel like you've outgrown your life, like your life doesn't fit you anymore, like you lose track of who you are. You feel confused because you've spent so much time trying to be who other people want you to be. It's a very universal theme with the people that I work with that I'll say, who are you at your core? And they'll look at me with a blank expression and have this moment where they realize, I don't even know anymore. I don't know. I asked somebody last week, what lights you up? If you could do anything, what would you do? What lights you up? And he was like, no idea. None.
Wow.
All right. So what used to light you up, let's start digging, let's start excavating and start maybe trying to figure it out. And then we try. And then if it's not right, then cool. Then we know we have some information and we try again. But I think that sort of universally there are self-esteem issues with the people I work with, people who feel not good enough, who sort of use and seek external validation as a way to prove their worthiness, which never truly works. Yeah. And then just that sense of constantly hustling, constantly being on the go, trying to be everything to everyone and always failing.
Right. I relate to a ton of the things you just said.
Yeah.
I think I've done a lot of self-work over the years, but I still can find, I just can see it faster than maybe people who haven't done the work, right? Like I can just see it faster, but I'm like, oh, there's that thing again where I'm trying to seek validation from somebody else or
Me too.
Trying to find answers outside of myself instead of inside myself. But
Yeah. And you start to recognize those patterns. And I share often about my own journey and what comes up for me, and things still come up for me, of course, because I'm human and because we get into those patterns and they just become so automatic. But like you said, you start to catch it faster.
Right.
Not that it necessarily ever goes away completely. You catch it faster and then you know how to correct.
Do you feel like, I mean, you must see more than the average person, sort of the other side of that. They go through something, and is there usually a reinvention, or like what happens on the other side of going through this?
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if I necessarily would call it a reinvention, although I think that probably works as well, but I think it's more of a rediscovery. I almost envision it. I'm always thinking in pictures, and I almost envision it as if the real you, who you are at your core, has sort of gotten buried by all of these mismatched pieces of identity that you've picked up along the way, trying to prove yourself, trying to be who other people wanted you to be. And it's like starting to get those out of the way, right? And starting to say like, oh, like there you are. So I sort of imagine it as a rediscovery. And it's so powerful. It's so powerful to see people genuinely starting to light up again and starting to feel fulfilled. Yeah. I often like to joke, because it makes people laugh, but I like to joke that I'm the divorce your husband, quit your job evangelist, and that I want everybody to divorce their husband and quit their job, which is not actually true. Got it. But what is true is that I want everybody to feel happy and fulfilled in their personal relationships and in their work. And I want to inspire people to have the courage to change the things that are not inspiring happiness and fulfillment.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means quitting your job and divorcing your husband.
Yeah. That hits deep, because I think there's a lot of things in life, whether it's a relationship or a job or just all the things we collect living life, and then we hold on to them out of responsibility. We stop living our life for ourselves, and our whole life becomes this obligation.
Absolutely. It's like this misguided sense of loyalty, because if you value loyalty, you don't want to give up. You don't want to turn your back on a commitment. And part of rediscovering who you are and honoring your commitment to yourself means letting other people down. And so it's still not my favorite thing to do, but over the past 4 years or so, I've gotten really good at learning how to disappoint other people to be true to myself. And so that's something that I like to help other people learn how to do. Right. Not that it ever feels great, but I also think that when you are not honoring your own boundaries and your own needs, that's when resentment builds, and that doesn't feel good either.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that is prevalent. Like, years ago, from a super successful business guy, he's a billionaire now. He was like, extreme focus can come off as rude. So I think he said it in more of like a, productive way, but like, people will want your time. People will ask you for things. And when you're super focused and you're like, nope, they interpret that as like, dude, what an ass. Like, I can't believe you're like, whatever.
Right.
But just to be true to yourself, to hold boundaries in the face of people wanting things from you can come off as rude.
Yeah. And in order to do that, you need to be super clear, right, on your own values and your own priorities.
Yes.
I, a couple of years ago, got to this place where I was so burnt out. I was like, I have no time. I have kids. I have, as I think probably single mom in it at that time. Like, I was working full time. I was like, I never had time. I was going crazy. What the hell? Where is my time going? Yeah. And I sat down and I literally mapped it out, and I was volunteering time for 7 different things. And I was like, what am I doing? But what had happened was exactly what you said, where I had said yes, and then I had said yes to something else, and then I had said, oh, no big deal. Yeah, I can do that. No biggie. And then before I knew it, I had this massive volunteerism commitment. Yeah. And so making those cuts, was hard, because then you're like, oh, I do believe in this cause. I do want to help. And I'm giving every single person in my life the most scattered, half-assed version of my energy. Yeah. So that's not fair to them or to me. Yeah. And so that realization of I'm actually not showing up for the people that I care about in the way that I want to was really powerful.
So good. Do you feel like, how do you unravel that? Like in the middle of that aha moment, like, what am I doing? I have no time. There's this desire that comes up of, I want my time back.
Yeah.
How do you start to unravel all the commitments to rediscover yourself?
So core values, right? What are your priorities? And for me, one of my core values is to be a present parent with my kids. And so I knew that was suffering. So that was a piece of it. But another thing that I do often for myself and teach my clients and that I love is a practice I call alignment mapping, where essentially, if you're looking at a piece of paper, you would put your goal over here on the right and imagine kind of like a tunnel going to the goal. And then at the top, we have energy leaks. And at the bottom, we have distractions. So if, my energy is starting over here on the left and I'm trying to move toward this target goal, anything that's not supporting me in moving toward that goal is a distraction or an energy leak. And so in order to have the most potent, powerful energy to get to my goal, I got to plug those things up. So really just like identifying that. And I do that constantly for myself with different goals, because distractions and energy leaks are everywhere, right? So I just am constantly like reevaluating that, like, okay, what's stopping me from moving toward this goal more quickly or more powerfully?
Yeah. I love that. What do you call it? Alignment mapping?
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that.
Fun. Thanks.
Do you have like .com, alignmentmapping.com?
I don't. That would be fun. I just accidentally bought 2 more websites the other day, so I'll just add that one on there.
I have that problem too. I actually accidentally buy stuff like tools and domains.
Yeah. Just a few more domains is fine. There's like 12 in there now.
I feel like this is so good because in the space of people having important work, I think when you start to, I don't think important work as a vision or as a goal, an attainment, a thing that you want to give your life to, I don't think that's visible inside of overwhelm and you're living your life in a box. I think once you start to rediscover yourself and you unbox life, I think you get back in touch with the things, like you said, core values, the things that really matter. And then what that would look like expressed in the world from where you sit. Like you would see a certain difference to make based on your core values. And that becomes this meaningful thing you get to give your life to the rest of your life. I feel like there's a lot of people that have important work and they're in the need of rediscovering who they are.
Yeah. And just like, the limiting beliefs, like the other thing I didn't mention, but in my clinical therapy practice, I'm a certified clinical trauma specialist. Most people I work with have experienced some form of typically childhood trauma, though not always. And when those things happen, especially the younger we are, that when they happen early in life, we create meaning about that. And we create meaning about what that means about who we are. And the way that I sort of envision, everybody's talking about limiting beliefs. And the way that I envision that is almost like this event occurs and there's a seed planted, a seed of a belief. And then through the process of confirmation bias, our brain looks for evidence to prove the things that we already know are true. So our brain's like, oh, that thing happened. Let me look for more things, more events to prove that. And I almost imagine it like a beanstalk that kind of grows in the background and starts getting all twisty and turny to where that belief then about who we are and our place in the world becomes so powerful that it drives all of our decisions. And through, my own work, my own sort of shadow work, I guess, I know what all of mine are. I know the events that inspired, the seeds, and I know what beliefs, and I know how that impacted my decisions. And so helping other people sort of learn how to do that for themselves and also to find that more compassionate perspective about it is also really powerful. I have a client who recently, I was like, what would you go back and tell young adult you? Because she's holding on to some resentment for some decisions that she made. She was like, I would slap her. And I was like, all right. So you're still angry about these decisions. And what would, older, wiser, more compassionate you say? Like, what would you say? And so we really worked hard to find what's the compassionate perspective of we're all doing the best we can with what we've got at any given time. And when you made those decisions that didn't serve you, what were you working with? And how did those decisions serve you at the time? So I think that's really helpful. And I think that in order to do the important work that you're here to do in the world, you have to kind of go back to those things sometimes, because you have to get them out of the way. There's a quote by Carl Jung that's just one of my favorites that says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you'll call it fate. Ooh. And so that's what happens, right? Like your behavior is driven by these beliefs about who you are in the background, and you don't even realize it. Wow. So, deconstructing that is powerful and clears the path so that you can show up in the way you're meant to and do the important work that you're here to do.
So good. So good. Yeah. There's a lot of people on autopilot with that. Unconscious stuff happening in the background. It's so good. Wow. What kind of books, have been most instrumental in your life?
Well, it's funny because one of my favorite books of all time, you keep reminding me of in this podcast. So I was going to ask you if you'd read it. It's called The Great Work of Your Life by Stephen Cope.
No.
Okay. No. You should read it. It's amazing.
The Great Work of Your Life. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it's all about the concept of dharma, the concept that we all were put here on earth to fulfill our dharma. We have a certain purpose, a certain job to do while we're here, which may or may not be related to our career, right? Your dharma could be to raise 20 foster kids and be a great parent. Like, it doesn't have to be professional, but we all have a dharma. And so I love that book. It's amazing. And then another one, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. That's oh man, Chris. I know.
I'm usually like hitting, close to 100% here, but not today.
That's another book that I'm sure has influenced conversations you've had, even if you haven't read it. He talks a lot about our zone of genius and how it's very easy for people to live in their zone of excellence because it's easy enough and you're good at it. But the difference between your zone of excellence and your zone of genius is what lights you up. Wow. And so you can be really good at something, but it's not your genius if it's not also creating a deep sense of fulfillment.
Yeah.
So that's another great one. He also talks about upper limit problems, which people, run into all the time because we all have sort of a set thermostat of how much good we believe we're allowed to have. And when you start to bump up against that, things will naturally start to fall apart in other areas if you don't expand your capacity for good things.
I love that. I can see how every one of those books would impact a conversation called Life Unboxed. Like, to
absolutely
would require activating your zone of genius or living in there. And wow, that's great. I'll have to check those out. So good.
Finding the courage to do it.
Yeah. Well, if you had to leave people with like some wisdom or advice for how to step into their important work more fully.
I think you actually said it already. I think it is to stop seeking answers outside of yourself and to really make time to listen to your soul, your higher self, whatever you want to call it. I think it's pretty common. Like, we have so much information available to us and we're constantly seeking, I call it golden ticket syndrome. We're constantly looking for that one golden ticket that's going to get everything off the ground and make everything magical. But there isn't a golden ticket. We take millions of courses, we listen to millions of coaches, whatever it is. But there's not a golden ticket. The golden ticket's already inside of you. And that's what you said earlier. And that's really the biggest thing, is that I want everyone to start trusting themselves, start trusting in their intuition. And that only happens when you make time for that relationship with yourself and to actually listen to yourself.
So good. I love it. I love it. Where can people, if people want to reach out to you and either work with you or learn more about what you're up to in the world, how do people connect with you?
Yeah. So my website is my name, MaryAllisonBrown.com. I'm currently undergoing a bit of a facelift, but it's there, so you can see it. And then Instagram at Mary Allison Brown. Those are probably the best two places.
Perfect. I love it. And your podcast, Life Unboxed?
Oh, yeah. It's available everywhere podcasts are available. It's on iTunes. It's on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the places. Awesome. Castbox. I don't even know what a lot of these places are, but when people were like, this is where I listen to my podcasts, I was like, okay, we'll put it there.
Yeah.
So Life Unboxed podcast is in all the places. And as far as if you listen to earlier episodes, it will say follow on Instagram, but that Instagram's since been deleted because I'm simplifying this year. So it's all in the Mary Allison Brown Instagram account.
Awesome. So good. Mary Allison, thank you for being on the show today. Thanks for being here. And I can't wait to have a future conversations with all your brilliance. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Do you have important work in the world? We can help you produce a show just like this one and get your message out in the world. Go to mygroundswell.com to connect with us now.